Hello. In this video, we will look at blend modes, or just modes, as you'll see them sometimes referred to on the Photoshop screen or in different menus in Photoshop. Um, and what blend modes are directions that you give to Photoshop that change how um, the tool that you're using interacts with what's already on your canvas. And also, it changes how different layers interact with each other visually. And I think the best way to understand it is to actually try it out and see what happens. So let's check it out. I'm going to go to Firefox here and we'll search for grass image, something with a texture. There we go. This one's kind of cool. Oh, almost forgot to get a large image size there, which of course we should always do when getting images. And I'm going to go with this one. Okay, so this is easy. Remember, you right click, copy the image, and we'll bring that into Photoshop. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bigger, so Command T, and notice I pasted it. It's in the new layer. I'm going to resize it. So we'll get this grass here. And really, I just need a texture. Any image will do, and texture images work really well. Okay, so I've got this kind of grass texture going on here, and I'm going to make a new layer. So right here in the layer window, click on the plus sign at the bottom. And just sticking with the previous tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and create a custom shape. So I click on my shape tool here in the toolbar and go down to custom shape tool. Click and hold on the shape tool and go down to custom shape tool. And we'll select this time, kind of like this gazelle running here. And I'm going to change my color to black. All right. So now I'll make the gazelle, or a reindeer. Okay. So I'm holding down Shift. Oops. Let's set my opacity back up to 100. Get up there. Okay. 100. Okay. Holding down Shift to keep those original dimensions and spacebar to move it. There we go. Okay. So I've got my reindeer leaping in front of this grass here. And we're going to look now at our blend modes. And our blend modes are here on in the layer window. And again, if you don't have your layer window, go to your window menu, window, and click on layers. You can see the shortcut is F7, your function 7 key on your keyboard, and you could just push that. It's a nice shortcut. So F7 will just make that appear and disappear. Okay, so we've got our layers available to us, our layer window, and we're looking right here where it says normal. And of course, with your reindeer in its own separate layer, make sure that you drew your reindeer in its own separate layer, separate from the grass. And again, that's the plus sign there to create a new layer. And then click on the reindeer layer, and you can click on the little arrow next to where it says normal, and you can see there's lots of different blend modes. These are pretty cool. What we've got going on right now is pretty simple because the reindeer is just black, so it's going to be pretty simple. But you can see that as you go to each one, and they're not all going to change, but this one, for example, the color burn, it changes the way that the reindeer interacts with the grass layer below it. So, for example, color burn is making everything that the reindeer is touching in the layer below it the color of the reindeer. So where there's no grass, there's no reindeer. Okay, let's check out some of these. So these aren't, there's not going to be that much variation in these. That one becomes white. That one takes the color out of where the reindeer is in the grass. And you can see it can be kind of cool because you could take the saturation one. If we make this a little smaller, let's make the reindeer a little smaller. And go to our move tool here. So I'm just moving the reindeer around. You can see now it's like a cool part of the grass where it doesn't have color, and that's just where the reindeer is. And that's changing the way the reindeer interacts with the grass. If we go ahead and find another image, let's find a more complex image. For example, well, forest. Okay, I've still got my size to large. Let's go with this one. Okay, and we'll copy that. Oops. And paste it right there in between those two. And let's make that a little bigger. Okay. And we can take the reindeer again, make it bigger. Let's see what happens now. So let's look at this now and see how this changes. So we'll go up to normal. And after we do this, we'll get an actual image instead of just the reindeer. So you can see there, you can see how the reindeer, just the black reindeer that we drew, is really changing how it's interacting with that layer below. Some of the most commonly used ones are going to be soft light and overlay, and screen and lighten and multiply. Those are some of the most commonly used ones. Overlay is probably by far the most commonly used. And if you play around with them a bit with different images, you'll see why. It makes a really cool effect. Soft light and overlay. It's almost like it's exposed over the image. And if we really want to do something cool, let's go ahead and hide the reindeer and just go down here to the tree layer and then change the way the tree layer blends with the grass layer. So right now the tree layer is just on top of the grass layer, and so you can't see the grass layer. If we go ahead and change the blending mode, it actually changes how the layers blend. So let's check it out. And you can see this is darkened. And now the grass is coming through the tree layer. And there's multiply. So you can see when you use more complex images, it gets really interesting. Here's color burn, which you can see the foresty texture. Oops. In the grass, and you can see this is linear burn. You can see that they're blending together, making really cool effects. Here is lighten, screen. There's overlay, soft light, hard light. So you can see all of them are slightly different, and it's really going to be, every two images that you blend will be different because it depends where the dark areas and what different colors you have are going to change how the two images blend. Now with the reindeer, which was just black, there wasn't a lot of interesting things going on because the image was just black. But you can see with these two images, which have lots of different tones and textures and colors, the way that they blend, is really interesting, and it's cool. It's a really fun and cool way to create some engaging um, things happening in your image. Okay, so that's your blend mode. We'll just select one there, linear burn. Okay, so I selected linear burn on the forest layer. And you can also stack the images. I could go to the reindeer and change it there. And then, if you can have different blend modes for each layer. And it really changes the way that the layers blend with all the layers below. So really fun tool there, the blend mode. And some tools that you use, for example, the brush tool has its own blend mode. So you can see it says mode and it's set to normal and has all those same settings. So you can, as you're drawing, let's make a new layer here. As you're drawing, if we set it, for example, to overlay, oh, that's not very interesting. Oh, right, because it only happens in the same layer. There we go. So I'm drawing in the forest layer. And you can see the way it's drawing, the way it's blending with what's already there is very different than usual. Personally, I don't like using these modes in my brush tool if I don't, I rarely do that except in very specific situations. Usually I put something into a layer and then do the blend mode in the layer. It's much better because you can then go back and change it and you can play around with it. But if you change it in your brush as you're drawing, you can't change it back after you've drawn. You can't see what it would look like other ways. So drawing in the normal blend mode to me makes a lot more sense. And then going and changing the blend mode in the layer if I want to change it. I like that process better. But if you're more risky and you want to just do it right with the brush, you can try that. And the shape tool has that also. So you can do that with the shape tool, and various other tools also have that. So if you see that, it says mode. Normal is always going to be the default. You can change it to whatever you want. Just remember that if you do it once and you change it to soft light and you go to a different tool and then you come back, it'll be right where you left it. Even if you go to a different file. So I'm going to this file. It's still going to be in soft light. So even if you open another file, so make sure that you change it back to normal if you need it to be on normal. That's another reason I don't like changing it, is I often forget that I've changed it and I don't go back and fix it. Anyway, I prefer to do it in the layers. Really fun technique, and that's your blend mode. A really easy way to create interesting and engaging images that you otherwise would be really difficult to create. Blend modes. So play around with that. Get some different images and shapes and play around with the blend modes and see what you can make. You can make really great images pretty quickly using blend modes just by choosing the right images. Have fun. I'll see you in the next video.